rolling. So 3, 2, 1. All right, we are live. Mr. Rudy, welcome. Thanks for
Thank
coming
you.
on.
Thanks for having me, man.
We had some technical difficulties there, but we got it done.
Yes, bro. Sometimes you gotta roll with the punches, man.
Right. How was your day? I like your is this where you do some recording and stuff? Is this at your place or
Well, it's at my grandma's place,
okay.
but yeah, it's where I'm. So yeah, so yes, it's my place for sure.
Nice. I wanted to ask you, you're a rapper that is it Fresno area right now?
So right now I'm in Fresno area, and yeah, that's where I'm at.
And what
I
is
actually just got back.
okay? I know that you've got kind of like a homecoming coming here, and so I want to hear about that. But first, I want to ask you about the Plain Kids. I saw
Right.
your merchandise and stuff like that. I like the logo. What is Plain Kids? What does that mean? Where does it come from?
Yeah, man. So basically, plainkidz is like this concept that me and my friend developed like back in middle school.
Okay, yeah.
And it was just like, two regular just kind of who enjoyed making music at the time, right?
Okay.
And now that I'm older, I guess, because this was in middle school,
Yeah.
this is 09, 08. And now that I'm a little bit older, I kind of just see plainkidz as like, trying to show people that, we're regular people, like, even when I become successful, and I believe I will become successful with my music, that, we're all just regular people. We all have our own stories, and each little aspect of that story is what makes you unique and special. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day too, that we're just regular people. We have ups and downs, and we have flaws, and we have, but we're just trying to, better ourselves and let other people know that, we don't have to do anything alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing too, is like, we always have some sort of way, even if it's like little help. Sometimes we overlook it and we just like, oh, I'm alone. But, like little help, for example, I'm staying at my grandma's right now.
Yeah.
So that's like,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, it's
Huge.
basically plainkidz.
Okay, because I had read a little bit. I forgot where I found it, but kind of that story of when you guys were little.
Yeah.
How old were you when you guys started? The Plain Kids.
So I was maybe seventh grade, so I must have been like
Okay.
12 or 13.
Yeah. That
Yeah, so pretty young.
that's a pretty interesting idea for such young. It almost seems like a lot of kids at that age would have gone the other way and like extraordinary kids or.
Right.
But I like that that humbleness and that confidence though in that. I like that. It's cool.
Yeah, that is kind of interesting. I never thought about it that way
You know
either.
what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Um,
were you kind of like a deep thinker at that time? Do you ever remember as a little kid you kind of being different and it's kind of separate from the other kids?
yeah, I was definitely a deep thinker,
Yeah.
I was, um, you know, I did get into trouble from time to time, but for the most part, like I thought, you know what I mean? I was like, when I was with my cousins and my friends, that's usually when I got in trouble. But like by myself, usually like if I was like, oh, I'm gonna do something, I usually like first thought about it. You know what I mean? When you're little, you don't really think about it. You're not like you're like, oh, I'm just gonna do it. You don't think of the repercussions.
Yeah.
But I mean, even since like very little, I was always like, well, this could actually happen.
Yeah.
And I was like 8. But still, I mean, when you are with your cousins and your friends, you kind of you just feel like, well, whatever.
Yeah.
But but I was definitely thinking about it, and other people around me were just kind of like, yeah. So I guess I was a deep thinker actually.
Yeah, that's it's always I was always that kid that kind of was like staring off in the window and thinking and
Hmm.
dreaming of big things and stuff like that. And it's interesting to me how everybody is just wired differently.
Yeah.
We're all kind of special in our own way, but we really are like into different things. We think about different things. But I really liked the Plain Kids. It really stuck out to me. I was really curious as kind of like where that came from.
For sure.
Now, take us back, since we're already back there. Where were you born and raised?
Yeah, so I was actually born in San Jose.
Okay.
So I was born in San Jose. So I started moving around even like really little, but I grew
Really?
up around here. But I was born in San Jose, and then I lived in Hollister, California for a little bit after I was born. And then I moved to Fresno, to Clovis,
Yeah.
specifically when I was maybe like 4 or
Okay.
5. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I stayed there. And I went to Sanger High School. I went to and until my junior year of high school, my mom moved to LA. So I was here from about 5 to about like 17. Right.
Okay.
So this was like the majority of my like growing up kind of period.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then my junior year of high school, my mom moved to Los Angeles. And at first I kind of stayed because, at first it was like I stayed with my grandma where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
Because
You like almost like a junior or a senior?
I was a junior in high school. Yeah.
Okay.
So I had my friends, and I was playing football, and I had just like so many ties to being here that I just kind of didn't want to go. But then I kind of thought about it a little bit more, and I'm like, well, I'm going to college, and my little brothers. I have 2 little brothers who are with my mom, and so I was like, well, it'll be the last year that I'll be able to like actually live with them and all that kind of stuff. So
there you go again. You were having very mature thoughts at the time and seeing kind of that big picture. That's cool.
yeah, man, and honestly, reflecting on it too is super crazy because after I moved to LA, I finished school there. I finished my senior year there at Bell Gardens High School, and then I went to Davis for college, and then I moved back after I graduated. I moved back to LA to my mom's.
Yeah.
In 2018, and it was like there was kind of like a plan for me almost because I moved back to my mom's, and if I hadn't had gone to my mom's in Los Angeles back in like 4 years prior,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known anybody. I would have just kind of been out there in LA by myself. But in that just 1 year, I was playing football and I made a lot of good friends, and they're still really good friends to me. So I was able to just kind of go back home and actually back to LA where my mom was, and kind of actually, I didn't feel out of place. I didn't feel like alone, nothing like that. I came back and, I was able to hang out with friends and make music, and I had some friends who had, just never stopped making music after high school and that kind of thing too. So it was like set up for me. You know what I mean? It was like ready. It was like, there was like a plan set up that was like, okay, like I'm gonna appreciate it later. You know what I mean?
Yes, definitely. So were you, I saw some of your hashtags were like Latino, or are you full Hispanic? What is your heritage or racial stuff?
Yeah, so I'm Mexican American, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So I was, my mom was born in Mexico, and and she actually she came over, and then she went to like high school in Parler. So it's just that's why after I was born in San Jose, because that's where my dad was born. We moved back to Fresno later. Like I was like 5, but she moved back because this is like where my cousins and my tios and my grandma and everybody was. So
you had did you really feel? I was talking to my brother about this the other day. We're both half Mexican and half white.
Okay.
And I never really. I mean, I spent a lot of time with the Hispanic side of my family and the white side. I don't really have like an identity of one race or the other. Where my brother, he's 5 years older, excuse me, and he really identifies like as Hispanic or Mexican, and he's if either of us, I know Spanish, I learned Spanish. I've been inside a lot now, but I typically tan more than
Right.
him, so I can look more Mexican than he does. But yet he's the one that identified as
Identifies
being
more.
Mexican big time. Was the Mexican culture, or was that kind of upbringing, was that a big part of your life growing up, you know, having quinceañeras and get-togethers and the mariachis and all that?
Yeah. So yes. So you know, both my parents are Mexican, and however, I would argue that you know, like you know, fortunately, in a certain way, it was you know, moving to Fresno area, and then actually being with my mom was kind of like really helped immerse me into the culture, like you know, the Mexican culture. You know, just going to my grandma's and my grandma's, one of my other grandmas lives in Parler, and you know, she
Okay.
only speaks Spanish.
Yeah.
And all my cousins, I have, you know, my mom has two brothers, but she has a couple half brothers too, but she has two brothers in the US. And you know, I have, from just those two brothers, I have like, you know, 25 cousins kind of thing, you know. So it really, it's kind of interesting too, though, I guess. Like, I guess it took a little while.
Okay.
Also, though, because I would say initially when I was little, you know, I didn't know Spanish, and I didn't, I don't think in my head I really knew what I didn't really think about identifying with anything.
Yeah.
Um, I think particularly also because most people, I'm kind of ethnically ambiguous, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people look at me and they're like, they don't think I'm Mexican. Most people don't really assume that I'm Mexican off the bat.
You could be
And
like
so
Middle Eastern, or
yeah, exactly. I can be, you know, a lot of people have so many guesses.
a light
And
black, or
yeah, exactly, bro. And so it's kind of like, you know, there was a good period in when I was really little
yeah.
that, you know, your perception of yourself kind of stems from other people's perception of you,
Yeah.
right? And
Okay.
so for me, that was the case. So for me, I didn't really, you know, I had an older brother who I really looked up to, and he was, you know, he was half black, and just kind of like I didn't really identify with anything for a while,
Yeah.
um,
Okay.
until maybe I was probably like in like the fifth grade ish, and then I was like, oh, you know, I guess I am Mexican American, you know.
Yeah.
So and then you know and then all my friends were the majority, the great majority of my friends are you know, Mexican. I have a couple Salvadorian friends, and but predominantly, you know, Latin American kind of friends.
Okay.
So I don't know. It's interesting though.
Yeah.
I did grow.
Well, he just barely said that to us. We were at dinner maybe a month ago. So I would have, if you would have asked me, I would have never guessed that my brother. I think of him as white. Like it was just
Yeah.
really odd. Um, like I have a background, and I was in a Mexican street gang for a few years. You know, from like 12 to 16, little kid stuff.
Right.
But if either of us was gonna like identify as being Mexican, it would be me. Like I speak Spanish, and you know he doesn't know anything.
Right.
So it was really interesting. But like you talked about our perception of ourselves.
Hmm.
You know, he's 5 years older. He probably spent more time, a longer period of time with our Hispanic side of the family. Uh,
Right.
I don't know what it was, but that was interesting. Now, did your father come with you guys, or was there kind of a separation, or has he always been in the picture?
Yeah. No. Well. Yeah. My parents separated when I was like pretty little.
Okay, yeah,
Um. I don't. I don't think he came with us, so I don't remember if he did. It was
okay,
like that little. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
So it was a while ago, and he, you know, we have a relationship though. Like, you know, I I talk to my
yeah.
dad and stuff like that too. But he moved. You know, after that he moved to like Boston, and you know,
Oh
so it was
wow.
just me. It was just me and my mom for a while, and then um,
Now your brother's a lot younger than you.
yeah. So I have one brother who is, we're 8 years apart each. So one of my brothers is 16, and my other brother is 9. Yeah, he's 9, I believe. So
Okay.
um And yeah, so we're all very, very different. And we even like, yeah, we're all really different. It's pretty crazy.
Well, have you read anything about like what do they call it? Birth order? Have you ever heard of that?
I have not read too much about, but I've heard about like, you know what I mean, like personality wise, like the kind of personalities you portray based
Kind of
off, you
like
know, the order of your birth.
yeah, like traits. But they one of the points that they make, and it's not always exact, but like after 5 years, so if there's a 5 year gap, it kind of starts all over.
I
So with
believe it.
yeah, so with your brother being 8 years, there was an 8 year gap. So you would
Yeah,
technically, according to like birth order stuff, you would technically be an only child.
right.
So you would have a lot of only child
Traits.
traits. Yeah. And
I believe it.
but even your both of your other brothers have that big gap as well. So
Yeah.
that's unique for sure.
Yeah, we have yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, we're very different. And it was cool though. Like I mean, I think that's like another thing too that, you know, you don't see at the time or whatever, but like you know, obviously I don't really remember, but like, you know, when I was like 3 or whatever and my parents split up, you know, obviously I probably didn't like it. I didn't want that to happen, but now it's like I really appreciate it in its own way, you know, like I wouldn't have those two little brothers.
Yeah.
Um and I even have a little sister from my dad now who's like really, really little.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be the person I am right now, you know? Like I think I really enjoy my personality is so much more like my mom's than, and it's probably because, you know, she's the one who raised me, but um that looking at it, I'm like, you know, I'm kind of glad that I grew up the way I did. It was
Yeah.
like a blessing in disguise, I guess. So, and yeah, sometimes you don't see it until later, and then you're like, man, that's why it happened. You know what I mean? And you're just
Yes.
excited about it.
Yeah, definitely. That's cool, man. Now I can only you said you're like 24,
I'm
26,
24, yeah,
24?
24.
Okay. So that's a so I'm 41, and I remember when my parents got divorced, it was like a big deal.
Yeah,
Maybe because it was in the church, they were really big church leaders, and it was kind of just, you know, unordinary. Do you remember growing up? Did you guys go to church, or was there any kind of like shame attached to there being a divorce, or did it feel kind of normal?
um, I don't know. I think uh, it felt normal. It felt
Yeah.
pretty normal. It didn't
It
feel weird because
it seems like it's changed. Like nowadays, it's much
yeah,
more common. So
yeah, it was also like I don't remember. Like I think too. Like I don't know how old you were
yeah, I
when
was
your
older.
parents separated. Yeah, like
Well,
I was like 3.
yeah,
So
okay,
I don't really know. You know what
yeah,
I mean?
that's true.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah, it really feels like they've been separated my whole life, which
yeah,
is, you know, it feels normal. You know,
yeah,
it feels kind of like, you know, that's how it's been and that's how it was. You know what I mean?
yeah. So how did you start getting interested in rap, or did you get interested in other music first and kind of end up becoming a rapper? Do you do any other music or just rapping?
Yeah. So I started like a lot of people, maybe not most, but a lot of people, you know, I was writing poetry,
Okay.
right? I was like probably like 7 writing poetry and I really liked it. And
You
then I
know,
wanted to,
most kids at 7 don't start out writing poetry. So
yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, man. Like my little brother, he likes to draw. And that's his thing. And you know, he's 9 and he's been drawing since he was like 7-ish too. He's
yeah,
like gotten really good. But but yeah, I was like, you know, I was like 7 years old writing poetry. And I was like, man, I'm pretty good at this. So I kept writing and then I wanted to be a singer.
okay,
I was like, oh, you know, I'm gonna be a singer. And I kind of was I don't know, I don't know, I wanted to be a singer. I want to be like Akon, or I really liked Akon at that time. So I was like, you know, I think I'm gonna be a singer like Akon. And
Akon sounds familiar. but I'm not 100% sure
Yeah.
of what kind of music is that.
He does like R&B.
Okay.
He does like the song. I don't know. I don't remember the lyrics to sing them, but he has like the songs "Lonely" and "Don't Matter," and he used like the little sample for "Lonely." Lonely, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Okay.
yeah. So he was like really, he was like the person who made me kind of want to start singing.
Gotcha.
And then actually I had an older cousin who was, a decent, maybe like 6 years older than me, 7 years older. And he was rapping around that time. He was like in middle school or high school, and he was rapping. And I remember at that time it was funny because I was like, bro, like this dude wants to be a rapper. Like, what's he doing, bro? He like, he was, I think they were in Reedley, and I was in Sanger, and they were like, I was like, man, this dude wants to be a rapper. What's he talking about? And it's like, it's crazy, you know what I mean?
What is that? What is that? When you say that he was rapping, what does that look like at that age? Just that he would like tell you, hey, I got this, I made this rap, or was he going somewhere and rapping, or what is that?
He was actually pretty good. He was, he was, he was recording his stuff and burning CDs and handing out his CDs and stuff like
Okay.
that. He was in high school.
Yeah.
And and it was just and he was actually pretty good, it's just maybe the subject matter was like not like the right kind of subject matter to help propel him forward or whatever. There's a little more like gangster rap and kind of stuff, which like there's a there's a niche for that too, but like it was like, at the time he was just, he was in gangs and stuff too, and it was just kind of not really
Yeah.
that was in my, and so also looking at that in my head, I was like, man, like what's this fool doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Did you kind of have a negative feel towards that lifestyle, that like stay away, this is not good, or were you drawn to it?
Now I was drawn. I was drawn to it when I was like little.
Yeah.
But then I was like, around like, a certain age, I was like, like not too much drawn to it. Just seeing like older cousins mostly, like, and seeing, people who are older and see them, follow that lifestyle and then mess up kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
And so, but when I was little, I was listening to like 50 Cent and G Unit, and I was like, I thought I was a gangster or whatever, and
Yeah.
I was like little and I was wearing, my baggy pants, and I thought, I don't know what I was thinking, but
Yeah.
that's what I thought, and that's just, I think too, like it's a matter of too, like, I grew up with my mom, and like I said, she was born in Mexico, so I was like, it's like this feeling of like you're the first generation here where you're trying to find your place.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You're
Yeah.
kind of like, in terms of music, in terms of culture, in terms of all these things, and you're really just trying to figure out like, okay, where do you fit in? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, and also I'm one of amongst my cousins, I'm one of the younger cousins, in like a group of in the group that I was like the little first wave or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm one of the younger ones. So I was kind of just like, a lot of influence came from older cousins and just, yeah. And then, but eventually I was just decided, I also, me and my friend, we would, make music. And by the time I got into middle school, I was like, okay, well, I like to rap too. And I was like, okay, I'll make some songs where I'm singing and rapping and stuff like that. And then, I saved up and I got like a little microphone or whatever. And I remember playing a song for a girl I liked in like 7th grade, or it might have been 8th grade or something. And I was like singing the hook and rapping the verses, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And then she listened to the whole song and she was just sitting there and she's like, you have a really good rap voice, Rudy. And I was like, and at that time I really wanted to be a singer. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, like that's kind of what I wanted to do, but I enjoyed rapping too because I enjoyed writing.
Yeah.
And I was like, huh, okay. It was like, I got it. It didn't hurt that bad, but it kind of like hurt a little bit in the sense that I was like, huh, maybe I should try rapping more. And I listened to my voice, and I was like, oh, actually, I was like, I think I do have a good rap voice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what I've been told by a lot of people since then as well. Like they're like, oh, you shouldn't like actually add too much to your voice. Like if I was recording, or even in college, like I have some friends who I have one friend in particular, he really helped me out, and he was like, hey, you know, actually, bro, you should take off that filter, bro. Like you have actually like a dope voice. Like you shouldn't change it with your filter or whatever. I'm like, all right, like okay,
Yeah.
but they help build that confidence too to like sound how I sound. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Um,
Anyways, that's how I started rapping.
no, you're good. So you said you had this friend at like, you know, sixth, seventh grade. How serious or how much of a partnership did you guys have? And did you guys go over to each other's house? Did you like schedule time, or was this just kind of a casual thing at that point?
Yeah. So we played football together,
Okay.
and in seventh, eighth grade, and then freshman year, and then and and a little bit of sophomore year too, and basically we played the same exact position. You know what I mean? He was, but so the way in Sanger we played like wing. We played ace. So there's two running backs in the backfield, two
Yeah.
wings, and then
Yeah.
one fullback in the very back. And so I was one wing, he was the other wing,
Okay.
and we were both like really good or whatever. And you know, he played safety, and eventually I ended up playing safety too. But at the time, I guess I played like outside linebacker.
Yeah.
And so we were just like, we just clicked based off of like the fact that we were playing the same, like similar positions.
Yeah.
And then he said he rapped, and I was like, hey man, I rap too. And so, and we met in like middle school. And so we just started rapping, and it was more like, you know, like after practice, we'd hang out before practice, or after school or before school, we just kind of like meet up at the park and just kind of like, just have fun, you know, just having fun and making music or whatever.
Yeah.
And we didn't take it super seriously, I guess, you know, at that time.
Yeah.
I mean, at the time, I think I did, you know, at the time, like I was like, yo, I'm going to be famous in this, you know? But there's a lot of people who I've met who are like at that age now, and they're like seriously serious, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I was substitute teaching, and so I've subbed middle schools, and they're like, there's kids that are like way more serious than I was in middle school, you know?
Well, the internet, I can imagine. I mean, the internet changes
Yep.
everything. You have the YouTube and everything right there. I mean, people can you can learn, you know, so much.
It's a game changer. That's true. The internet is a game changer for
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
for sure.
What did it look like you learning how to rap? Did you because I've seen like Eminem, he practices his rhyming with one word. He tries to figure out, you know, and practices that. He's talked a little bit about that. Did you actually have like something that you learned from specifically, like a book or an instruction thing, or did you just kind of just flow all the time?
My flow was trash, bro. Like it was garbage, and so like it was so bad. But like it was just practice. Like I had a so recently I actually found like a CD that I made like freshman year of high school.
Yeah.
And I must have written, it was about a girl, and so I must have like burned the CD and wanted to give it to her, but I never did or something.
Yeah.
And it was just like you can't listen to more than like 20 seconds of it.
Yeah.
And I've always been low, but like I've always been writing stories. Like I've always been a really good storyteller. So that never took like practice. Like I've never had to like work on that aspect of making music. And my rhyme scheme was always so like at first. I mean, it wasn't too great before, but like it was my storytelling was the best part of what I was doing at first. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it wasn't actually until college that I met this one dude, and he was from LA, not too far from like where we had eventually ended up moving. Who, excuse me, and he really kind of like pushed me and was like, check this video out, learn how to do this, learn this, do this. Oh no, bro, like do this, like trust me, try this.
What were a couple of those things? What's an example?
It was a lot of YouTube videos.
Yeah.
So some were about rhyme scheme and how, like, actually, because at first I was rhyming with just like very simple single syllable rhymes, you know what I mean? And I still do from time to time. But he was like, bro, like, really you got to focus on building your like multi-syllable rhymes, and then actually like that was a big thing. And so he kind of sent me this video like about like how Biggie Smalls did it or whatever, and it was on YouTube. You could YouTube that, and he's like, okay. He was the rhyme dude. He was the dude. That's what he really was, actually. He was the dude who kind of was like, okay, work on your rhyme, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And then in college as well, I had another friend who was very like, work on your flow. You know what I mean? And I was like, okay. And so I started working on my flow, and kind of just, he's like, instead of just like actually listening to music, I was like sitting there like, how does this dude do it? I was just listening to music. Many rappers flowed really well. Like Outkast and like just different rappers that had phenomenal flow, and then I just kind of started emulating that, and for a while my songs did sound like that, but eventually it was just like, oh, okay, now I can actually move away from it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how it happened with. So I did. It was nothing reading though. I didn't anything. It was just more a lot of YouTube, like you said, bro. You can find anything on YouTube. And I kind of was like, at the time when I was making songs that were kind of trash, I thought they were really good.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate though that there were people around me. They didn't say they were trash, but they were like, oh, work on this, work on this, work on this, work on this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, okay, I'll try that. And then I worked on it, and just a lot of practice and just being in love with what I'm doing, I just got better,
Yeah, well, you always have these people that are like, they show up to American Idol and they're horrible, and their friends and family, told them they were awesome and encouraged. Yeah, there's got to be a mix with that, I have 5 kids, and I have to, you're always trying to figure out, how do I actually encourage them? You can't just tell them they're awesome for everything all the time,
Right.
So that's cool that you had people kind of speaking into it. Was it a bunch of different people, or did you connect to one person kind of maybe through college or at any point that really helped you?
Yeah, I mean, it was a bunch of different people. So I actually speaking of American Idol, bro, like, so freshman year of high school, me and my friend Daniel, we were singing. I had a rap group, I had a singing group, I had like all these different like groups or whatever, and we actually we went to LA, and we auditioned for the X Factor.
Yeah.
And we, but after that too, it kind of like, cause like in high school, maybe around sophomore year of high school, I kind of like stopped making music, cause I was like, well, maybe I'll never be able to do this. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Even though I really enjoyed it, and I still would write songs or whatever, but I never really I stopped putting myself out there.
Yeah.
And I think I was not ready for. I was putting myself out there so much that there were a couple of people who like gave like really harsh criticism that I wasn't ready for at the time. You know what I mean? And that was kind of like, it's just stunted, what I was doing. And then it wasn't until later that I was like, you know what, like I still love doing this, so I'm gonna do it.
Yeah. How did you audition for the X Factor? Did you have to like sign up or send anything ahead of time, or do you kind of just show up? What does that whole process look like?
I don't remember actually. Really? We signed up. I think you did have to sign up online, and then you wait in line.
Yeah.
And no, I don't think you actually have to sign up online. You just we just had to show up, get in line, and then you sign up there, and then so you could. That's why they have a lot of the on like the shows or whatever. I haven't seen them in a while, but like I remember they'd have sometimes where it was like people who didn't even sign up ended up and actually like going through whatever.
Yeah.
It was a lot of that kind of thing where it was like, oh, okay, because you didn't actually have to sign up ahead of time. You could just, accompany someone, and then if you feel like doing it, you can do it too or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned, I kind of originally asked if you kind of only rapped. At this point, it sounds like you were doing singing and rapping. What did the singing side look like? What kind of singing were you in? Was it choir or just like for fun?
So I actually did join the choir in high
Yeah.
school,
Okay.
because I wanted to get better, you know.
Yeah.
Because at the, you know, I was like, oh, you know, I want to sing,
Yeah.
and so I'm gonna learn how to sing better, and it was good. I learned a lot, but my voice is not, it's not bad. I think you can train your voice, but I do
Yeah.
think I have like a I can't hear my when I don't know what this is called, but I know what it sounds like when it comes through my headphones.
Huh?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or my headphones are like, I know, like, you know, if I'm listening to a song and someone's singing, I know that that's like out of tune now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't. I mean, maybe a lot of people are like this too. I don't know what my voice is doing. I don't
Yeah.
have no control over my voice. That's what it is. I don't have too much vocal control.
Yeah.
And maybe I do. Maybe I have more now just because of rapping so much. But at the
Yeah.
time, I had so little vocal control that what I thought was sounding good wasn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
it's definitely a skill. Like everybody starts, like some people are just naturals and they
yeah.
start
Some people
way
just
up
get it.
here.
Hmm.
Yeah. But you can, I mean, anybody can kind of learn how to sing and get better and better, but it takes a lot of work for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's about the work
Especially,
sometimes.
especially if you can't hear, what everybody else hears.
Yeah,
So,
that's exactly what it was for me. That
yeah.
was the biggest thing. But yeah, I was singing, and you know, I was like writing songs, and I was like, singing, singing for girls and stuff like that, and thinking I sounded good. And I mean, they said I sounded good, but I don't really buy it no more. Like I
Well,
think it was, I think it was more like, like a positive kind of, thing. Because
no.
also what I wrote was beautiful. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like it
Yes.
was beautiful. I mean, the like I was writing poetry basically, and I was trying to sing it.
But you're also, I'm assuming you're probably also comparing yourself to these great musical artists and stuff as well,
That's
where
true.
a normal guy isn't going to be singing to this girl. Just the fact that you were able to do that, girls like that stuff.
Yeah, girls like that stuff, especially when you're little, I suppose.
Yeah. Did
So
did the Plain Kids, did that follow you all the way through? Is that something you've come back to?
that is something I come back to. So playing kids stopped maybe like around the time I stopped making music too. Because I did stop. Like I said, there was a period where I stopped, um, and it came back it came back pretty quick right off the back when I started to make music again. Just out of like reflection and reflecting. Okay, like I don't know, just kind of reflecting.
Yeah.
Um, so it definitely did stop. And it's crazy because when you look it up now, you Google all this stuff and no one's come up with that idea, and it's kind of like a simple idea, but it's also kind of profound, and it's kind of like, wow, like no one's like used this yet, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's kind of crazy. Yeah, so like I had like my initial rap name was 3G, and when I started sitting down and saying, okay, I'm gonna get a little more serious about this, it turned out that 3G was trademarked. So I was like, okay, well, that I could use it, but when I become successful, how I foresee becoming, then
Yeah.
it would make sense to just change it right now,
Yes.
Um, so to think that Plain Kids hadn't been yet and whatnot is kind of crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's simple, but it's like you would think. I don't know. I would think it sounds pretty dope, actually. So
Yeah, no, I love it. That's what really kind of was highlighted to me when I was trying to get to know
yeah,
you a little bit and stuff. So that's cool. Um,
and
now,
that's what it's about, actually. For me, that's like one of the biggest things that I realized maybe a few months ago. I was kind of having like a just freaking out, I guess. Just freaking out about some stuff, and I was like, man, like, what am I doing this for, right? And like, what is like really the purpose? And it all kind of just came back again to playing kids. You know what I mean? And it came back to the idea of like actually being, not so much about, me, you know, uh, and I'll grow, I'll grow. And the more I grow, Plain Kids will grow, hopefully, is the idea too. But
Yeah.
it's the idea that it's about actually like, giving back to, to, to those, because like I said, I was substitute teaching too. And it just so happens, that kind of goes in line with all of that. And
Yeah.
so it's like, goes back to actually like, giving back to people who might not think that there's too much else. And also understanding that like, like I said, we're all, even if you don't think you're special in your own way, right?
Yeah.
But that regularity and those different little things of just being a regular person kind of make you the, that special person you are. So like, I'm really trying to, that's really the biggest part of what I'm trying to do. And I realize that that's like the biggest part of the mission I'm trying to accomplish is really grow Plain Kids as like a record label and have other artists eventually. And then also just like a lot of different little entertainment things too, just have a variety of things like film, different kind of things, whatever interests people.
That's cool. Yeah, the Plain Kids, it feels unifying to me also, like something that we can all kind of get behind and be a
Right.
part of. With what I do, with my passions and stuff, it's a lot of it is how can we be more united in like love and joy and peace? Like those are
Yeah.
those are three main things in my life that I feel like have impacted me. And I just feel like there's not enough love, there's not enough joy, there's not enough peace.
Yeah.
I'm in the Christian realm a lot of times, and I don't see peace and joy and love a lot of times in it, and it should be. And sometimes I see it more in the secular world, where I see people who aren't considered loving, like gangbangers or whoever. Like a lot of times they have close relationships, they do love one another. They're a part of a culture that might have killing and bad things also, but sometimes you can learn from people outside of your circle about love and joy and just see the happiness in people. And so I liked the Plain Kids. I liked it because it feels like everybody can kind of relate to that, and we all feel like just a kid sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's really I like it. I think it was a very visionary thing, and I'm glad it wasn't taken when you came back to it. So that worked out really, really good for you, man. It's awesome.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I agree, man. Like actually, that's one of the other kind of cool things about having moved so often was, I've seen different, a lot of walks of life and just a lot of different kind of people.
Yeah.
And it's helped me kind of understand, just different cultures, different people, and how different, just understand that more and really gain perspective on others that some people might not have or might overlook. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you get to see what you like, and I feel like unfortunately sometimes we have, like, let's say the Hispanic culture. Like when I think of my Hispanic culture, I think of guys, my father, my grandfather, my great grandfather, who were very like had a lot of machismo,
Right.
that were very proud men, and it's almost like a negative connotation, and I feel like a lot of times Mexicans that hear that or see that, they grab on and they say that's just how we are, and it's like, no, it's not how you have to be. You can be a very proud, in a good way. You can be very, being a macho man can be a good thing if you do it in the right way, but you don't just have to like accept the negative things in your culture. It's up to you. It's up to you. You can create a whole new culture if you want. What does that look like? So it's an interesting.
We have a choice. Exactly, bro. We have a choice in everything we do. Good or bad, we have a choice. That's why I like, it's the crazy thing. It's like, you can choose to do whatever you want, actually.
Yes.
Doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
But like, in reality, you can. And it's like, and yeah, like you said, you can choose to have the positive aspects of every different little thing that you see, and that's like what you should strive to do for sure.
Yeah.
I try and better myself with that every day, and I'm still just getting better,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's cool that you were able to get a bunch of different perspectives, different cities, different realities and stuff like that. raising my kids, I kind of, I try to give them a glimpse or take them around different cultures, good, bad, whatever's safe.
Yeah.
If it was legal, I would bring them into a bar. I would bring them into like a nightclub. I want them to see what different people live like and let them kind of see the good, the bad, the ugly, and that way they can make choices like, okay, like myself.
Exactly.
I remember I was younger than my brother. My brother had like a party over at his house one time, and everybody's drinking and acting crazy. And I remember like it seemed fun, like it was a cool atmosphere. And then the next day, there was like people laying all over the place, throwing up, and there's a guy
The
on the
repercussions.
there's a guy on the front porch, and I think he was trying to get home, and he just passed out on the front porch, and so it kind of, at that point, I saw the negative side of it. Years later, I was a restaurant manager, so I worked in bars, bar manager, and I actually saw that some people could handle their alcohol. They came in, they had a couple drinks, they had a good time, but they weren't like just becoming alcoholics all of a sudden, and so my perspective changed on that to where I wasn't afraid of alcohol after a while, where I was afraid of it before.
Sometimes, ideally, it comes with like, I don't know if this was true for me and a lot of my friends, was just kind of like it came with just age too. When you're younger, when I was younger, I mean, I'm not that old, but when I was younger, it was more just like, okay, you're drinking and doing things, and you're doing it in excess. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, you just are, and so like now, like I can't hang like that anymore, and now, like, when I was still living in Vallejo not too long ago, I would meet up with my friend Jimmy. He would shoot some of my videos, and he was a good friend from even from college. And we go to the bar, have a couple drinks, and then we'd like brainstorm ideas, and be like, okay, let's like do this for the video, and then we just go and get work done. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But it became a like 2 drinks, and then we dip, and then we go get the work done or whatever. We go we'll go. Yeah. So, and it was like all local or whatever, but we just kind of stay there, and but it became too like, I know myself, like I know that, like, it's like I hate the feeling of being hungover, and I've thrown up like seldom. I've only thrown up like one time from drinking in my life. I've only thrown up one time in my life in general.
Yeah.
Like just being sick or anything. I've only thrown up like once, and it was just horrible. And I was like, man, this is not what I want. So
it's like nobody, I know in my world, I was raised like really super conservative, religious, and it was like they don't teach their kids how to drink, or like it sounds like a lot of times people learn because of going through the bad times, but you can actually teach your kids, hey, you there's a point where you can reach that good buzz or whatever, and you can stay there, you can ride it out, you can eat a little bit, have some water, have another drink.
Exactly, yeah.
And people kind of learn how to, same thing with like weed or whatever drugs, typically there's a way to do it where you're not, abusing it or being addicted or whatever. So
in moderation.
Yeah, whatever, and some people it's like nothing. Like I know some people that they have one drink and they're gone, and it's not a good for them.
Yep, no, for sure.
So it's a lot of the thinking and trying to figure out what's going to be best for my life. And if you want to just be a drunk and go get drunk all the time, and that's the life you want to live, go for it. But I don't think a lot of people want to choose that, if they think about it. So.
Yeah, I agree. Like I know a couple people who have that, and it's just kind of just negatively affected their lives. And they're older, but they're still there, but they're it just hasn't been good for their lives, unfortunately. But and the other thing too is some people like have just addictive personalities, unfortunately, as well. So
you got to know yourself.
You have to know yourself, exactly. For me, I don't. I really enjoy the taste of a beer.
Yeah.
I enjoy the taste of all alcohol pretty much.
Yeah.
And like tequila, I'll sip on tequila. I don't just take
Okay.
shots. I don't take shots anymore. I'll just kind of sip
Yeah.
on it a little bit, or some whiskey or beer or whatever it might be. But I don't feel a crave. I'm not like, I don't feel like I need it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's
Do
been
you,
a while.
do you
Go
remember
ahead.
the first time you had a drink? What was that experience like?
I was probably really young,
Yeah.
actually. Just kind of like I said, with older cousins, and
Yeah.
not really very little adult supervision or whatever. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I was probably like really little, and so I don't really remember it. It was just kind of like to be cool. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Kind of normal, like at family parties and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Everybody's
exactly.
outside and
And
cooking
so it's just, you know,
carne asada.
exactly, man. So it's just kind of like to be cool, and I don't think I really felt it. I was like little, so I don't think I really drank that much. Like I really felt it or anything like that the first time ever.
Yeah.
Um, but it's possible too that exposure, like, you know, all my cousins now who were in that same group or whatever, you know, we are all pretty we are good like that, you know. So perhaps
Yeah.
even that early, I mean, I'm not at all like saying that this should be commonplace, but for me, it's
It's
possible
all
that it's just that.
hypothetical.
Yeah, a hypothetical. I'm not saying that should at all be like what people should do. I don't think it's good, but you know, just that it wasn't so of a unique thing for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like taboo.
It wasn't taboo. It was more
Yeah.
like it was just what it is, and then you decide if you it was, yeah, exactly. It wasn't taboo. So I had no like feeling, sense of like, oh, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's what they say. Like in Europe, their kids have a sip of wine at dinner at a very young age.
Right.
They kind
Yeah.
of just get used to it. I was telling a pastor friend that was on the podcast this last time about I was probably like 10, 11 years old, and I went to a friend's house and I opened the fridge. So I have a totally different perspective on it. I opened the fridge and I saw beer, and it scared me because
Ah.
I had heard, like, you take a drink of beer and you become an alcoholic. Like, that's what I
Right.
was taught. And so I was scared to death. I remember calling my dad saying, "Hey, they have beer here. Get me out
Oh
of here."
man,
So
that's a good child though.
no,
You
it,
you were.
I was
That's cool.
scared. I was scared. I mean, yeah, I was, before I was 12, I was really, really conservative Christian and stuff. But I was just, it was like they put the fear of God in you about all this stuff. Uh,
Right.
Fast forward, I just never had any desire to drink. And I was like 32. I think I was 32 the first time I ever had a drink. And at the time, I was starting churches and bars and clubs and doing that. And it just kind of kept coming up in the conversation, like, "Hey, I bought you a shot," or whatever. There's just, people are being nice.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, I've never drank before," and it just kind of became like a barrier that didn't need to be there. I had already
Right.
kind of learned that drinking wasn't going to make me an alcoholic. It wasn't going to send me to hell.
Yeah.
I knew all that in my head, but I was still like afraid of it, and I didn't like that. And I was like, I do not want to be afraid of something that I shouldn't be.
Yeah.
So I remember I was a manager at, I think it was Applebee's, and I had my, have you ever worked in a restaurant or anything?
I have not.
No. So sometimes they'll, like, every shift, like a night shift, sometimes they'll make like the new food or the new alcoholic drinks, and you're supposed to try them so you learn like the flavors of it.
Okay.
And so they would have that, and I would never try the alcoholic stuff. And so I don't know what happened. It just clicked in my brain. I was like, "You gotta get over this." And I told the bartender, make me something I'm going to drink for the first time tonight. And I just had a drink or two of like a cranberry and Coke or something,
Yeah.
nothing special. But I remember like reaching for it, and my hand was shaking. I was scared to death of just having a drink. And it was just kind of I still feel kind of uncomfortable sometimes when everybody's drinking and stuff. It's just a weird, like, upbringing thing.
That was just the nurture.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy how powerful that stuff is.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's just it was fear, and for your parents probably looking out for your best interest.
Oh, of course.
Even they were just kind of like they were telling you that, um, but yeah, it's interesting. It's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. It's I don't want to put any fear into my kids' life. Like we ever since they were little, we would talk about alcohol. Like I'd walk them down the liquor aisle at the store and talk
Yeah,
about I don't want them to be afraid. Uh, there's other things that it's of course it's illegal to let your kids try alcohol, but
yeah,
hypothetically, I probably did that as well, just to
right.
get them not to think about it, not to be afraid, to
Not
kind
to
of
be afraid. Yeah,
be informed. Let them know, hey, this type of alcohol, that's going to be strong. This type of alcohol is going to affect you this way. All that stuff. But
and I think that is like the with the adult super, like it's like kind of like this balance that I've seen others people like friends of mine's parents do before.
yeah,
It was very like if you stay here, you know
yeah,
what I mean, it's
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
because we're gonna make sure you're okay, and we're gonna look after you, and it's gonna be okay, but we want to. So this, it's also like, I think it was good for me too, and I think it's kind of like there is some sort of, I mean, I'm not a parent, so I don't know. I feel like I don't know, but the way I see it at this moment, not being a parent, is
yeah,
like I can see that being something beneficial as well, where it's like, okay, you're here, you're gonna be safe. We know you're here. You're not out like drinking and driving. You're not gonna crash, with some other person who might be drinking and driving. And even if you weren't, like, your
yeah,
friend might have been or whatever.
yeah.
Um, so you can stay. Like you can have a couple of friends over. You guys have to stay here, or whatever. And you guys can't leave or whatever. You guys, everyone has to sleep over here. And then that kind of thing also helps you kind of like, okay, like actually, like it's again the taboo idea, and actually making sure that your children are safe or whatever, because I mean, yeah, because I mean, I mean, for me it was like I had, I snuck out time and time again, and different kinds of things like that in high school, and you want to make sure that your kids are informed too, that
Yeah,
they know what they're doing,
yeah.
because you don't know what they're doing sometimes.
Eventually they're gonna get out there in real life, and
Yeah,
like that's the thing. You always hear about like college girls going, Christian Catholic girls going crazy because they're
right.
so compressed. It's a natural thing for these Christians to get off into college away from their parents, and they don't know how to handle their freedom. They don't know how to handle drugs and stuff like that, and then it's just they're in for a wild ride. Um,
Yes.
but it seems like a lot of education is happening more with alcohol and weed and mushrooms and all that stuff. It seems like people are a little more educated now of what's actually going on. So I think that's a good thing for sure.
Yeah. And I
Um,
think, like you said, people didn't want to talk about it before.
no, no,
So even if it was going on, it was like people were not okay with talking about it, and that was the unfortunate part, because it was still happening,
yeah,
but people didn't want to talk about it, so people were uninformed and uneducated, and they
yeah.
were making uneducated choices. I feel like.
Well, like for instance, a girl would get pregnant in the church, and she would literally disappear for like 9 months, and nobody would talk about it, and it's just
That's right.
it is hilarious, man. Um, but I was gonna ask you. I saw in one of your, I think it was your stories or whatever. What is that? The puff puff paint.
Yeah. So it was. It's an artist, a local artist, I guess. He's not a. He's like more of a drawing artist. He
Okay.
paints. And
Yeah.
so I was just kind of searching different artists in the area, and like, oh, okay, like just trying to show a little support or whatever.
Yeah,
And
that's
I
good.
saw what he was doing was kind of cool. I don't know if you've ever been to. Well, I mean, you just started drinking, but they have like the wine and paint things. I don't know if you've heard of it,
I've seen
but
that. Yeah.
Yeah, but they have like those kind of things too, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, that's kind of an interesting thing too. So, and he's just drawing. I don't know him personally.
Yeah.
He's just another local artist in
Okay.
Fresno too. And I was like, oh, and he's trying to create art in different ways and trying to bring people together and creating art. I'm like, okay, I can get behind that too. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Nice.
The wine and paint's pretty fun too, and just kind of again, it's just like a glass or two, and you're just painting, and you're just kind of able to just kind of breathe a little bit, and it's just a good time
Yeah.
sometimes.
No, I like it. I like I probably like 10, 12 years ago, I started this church. It was like a weed smoking church. And I had never smoked weed, and I wasn't interested in it at the time. And it was just super controversial. It's like nobody it was just wasn't being done at the time. But just like anything, these people were like wanting to talk about God. They were wanting to pursue, like, or at least have conversations about it. They didn't want to go to church and stuff, but so it was always an interesting thing. So that kind of caught my attention, that that's a cool concept.
Yeah, I think me and my cousin, we were having a conversation about that a while, maybe like 2 years ago,
Yeah.
and I was kind of like trying to figure that out, and just in my head, I think that I don't know if this is true either, but
Yeah.
this is just kind of like my opinion of at the moment,
Yeah.
because we're constantly growing, our opinions change too. But I think that weed and alcohol are like they're the same in the sense that like um when abused, they can, alcohol is bad for your liver. It can give you cancer, and it can do a lot of other bad things for you too. It can give you it causes brain damage. A lot
Yeah.
of people, they get dementia from being heavy drinkers when they're
Oh,
old
really?
and stuff like that. Yeah, so that's like
Know that.
binge drinking can cause dementia. Um, so like that's like there is a lot of negative repercussions from drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
And the same thing with smoking as well. You can get lung cancer, and there's different things that can happen. But I think that they're both the same in the sense that like like we were talking about, like in moderation,
Yeah.
or understanding that if you're not just understanding yourself, understanding it in moderation, and like you said too, I think that um I mean kind of when the Pharisees were like, was Jesus over here hanging out with the drunks, you know what I mean, and
Yeah.
the sinners, and then Jesus was like, hey, like the people who are healthy don't need healing, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
and different kinds of things like that. And I'm not saying that that I think everyone needs healing, but what I'm trying to say is like there's too much. I think there's too much of a conception of people like of just negative, you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
just if they're doing that, that's bad. But it's like really like you said too earlier about like it's about love, and you gotta just show love, and you just hopefully build you by showing love. Like some people never like felt love
Yeah.
before either, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
of all walks of life, not necessarily just people who drinking and smoking, but just in general, some people who never really felt love. So like the more you express it, the more you give it to them, it's like it's good. It feels good to
Yeah.
get that kind of that feeling that you know understanding that no one's perfect. You know what I mean? Nobody's
Yeah.
perfect. Even if you try and hide your imperfections, you're not perfect.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so it's okay to. It's hard to wear your imperfections on your sleeve, um,
Yeah.
but um, but I mean, nobody's perfect. Everyone has their faults, regardless. And then the other thing too, again, this is kind of just the way I see it at the moment.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I really see like sin. I think that God sees sin too is like is sin. You know what I mean? And in the sense that like there's no like serious sin. there's no minor sin. It's all sin. So it's like, regardless of what you're doing, is it's causing that separation. And because of that, like, it's hard. You shouldn't, I don't think people, not you, but I don't think people should be like, well, this person did that. Well, it's like, bro, like, have you ever like lied? Have you ever stole? Have you ever done any little thing? You know what I mean?
Thought about it.
Even thought about it, bro. Like, you're in the same boat as that person. You're not better than that person. So like, that's kind of how I see. I don't know. That's how I see it at the moment. So
yeah, 100%. That was my desires. Exactly those scriptures that you talked about right there. That was my impression of Jesus. Was like, I'm gonna go. He went to whoever, everybody. He loves everyone. He's supposed to be like the picture of God for us to understand him. And it's like, he loved the prostitutes, he loved the drunkards, he loved everyone. And the church is getting better at that, but forget the church. Just as individuals, we can always share that love and share our joy and peace with each other.
Exactly, bro.
And that's, hopefully that changes the world. And that's what Plain Kids is all about.
That is actually exactly what Plain Kids is all about, bro.
So what is this, what has happened in the last couple of years? What brought you here, and where are you going? What is your passion? What is your kind of dream for right now?
Yeah, so after I graduated from UC Davis in 2018, I moved back to LA because I had graduated from high school out there. And then I was there for a year. And then around this time last year, I moved to Dixon, California, Northern California.
Yeah.
And then I moved to Vallejo in February of this year.
Yeah.
And then I moved back to Fresno 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Oh, nice.
And so, yeah, it was basically like just kind of like just following where I felt like where I was supposed to be, and just like, this is where I'm supposed to be to be making my music and make it happen. And it's crazy because I haven't moved back here since I left in 2013.
Yeah.
And so it's like that's 7 years ago now.
Yeah.
And so like it's like coming full circle. And a couple months ago, I kind of starting in the summer of this year, I was like, you know what, Rudy, like you gotta be like you know what I mean? In every way, you gotta live like your truth. You gotta do what you believe you gotta do. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You gotta speak your truth and tell the truth and be honest and go forward and work hard and like do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
And that was kind of hard. There was some growing pains along the way, because it's always like difficult to do and to actually do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the more I was doing it, the more, it just felt right. And the more things started feeling right and falling into place. And then eventually I felt like, I was supposed to come back to Fresno, and I was trying to figure out why. And then I was like, I think it's just time. It's like the full circle. And like I said, it's kind of full circle. Like I said, it's kind of coming back. And I think the biggest thing of coming back for me was is still really just, people leave Fresno to try and be successful in music, which is what I'm trying to do, People leave Fresno to try and be successful in a lot of things because, it's true, there's less opportunity here in the area. But, I want to be that dude that does the opposite. You know what I mean? I want to be the dude that's like, everyone leaves to go and make it. Well, I'm going to come back and I'm going to make it, and I'm going to put like everyone up. I'm going to bring everyone up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's kind of really what I want to do. And that's the idea too of like Plain Kidzz. I try to like really kind of feel in as well that it's like, okay, like this is it. This is what I want to inspire people to, especially like in the Valley and in Fresno and in the Valley in general, just kind of like, I don't know if you've ever seen the memes, but like like on Instagram and stuff where it's like, there's like Northern California and the Bay Area and like all this cool stuff. And then there's Southern California, LA, and all this cool stuff. And then in the middle is like no one cares, no one gives a shit, whatever. And it's like that's where we grew up. You know what I mean? That's where I grew up. So like nah, like that's home. You know? Yeah. Like there's been people who are like, you know, going to Fresno. What are you gonna do in Fresno with music and stuff? I'm like, bro, that's home. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or why are you going there? What's there? It's like it's home. Home's there. You know what I mean? That's where I grew up. That's like where made me the person I am today. I mean, a lot of things made me the person I am today. Yeah. But I think the root of it all was here. You know what I mean? I could leave. Like I remember being gone, being in LA. People knew. Like I did stay in Bell Gardens and I was there for a while, and I did kind of understand it and learn what it was to be there or whatever. But you know, like it's like now, like, you know, like my personality is very like Central Valley personality, I guess, you know? Yeah. Without even knowing it. And the same thing going to the Bay Area, like I don't have a Bay Area personality, I guess. And there's been people who've like called that out. They're like, oh, you're from, I'd be like, oh, you know, like LA is usually where I go home to like visit my mom. Yeah. And they're like, you don't seem like you're from LA. I'm like, oh, you know, I grew up in Fresno. And then they're like, oh, yep, you seem like someone from Fresno. I'm like, really? That's crazy, you know? Yeah. And so that's just how it is. So like I came back and I'm like, okay, I really want to help. So I started, I got one person who reached out and maybe we'll be able to do something soon. But like, you know, specifically, I kind of want to start in Sanger, then build out from there too. And just really, so I'm trying to offer like, you know, free chemistry and biology tutoring for high school students. Because I was a genetics major. So that's like, I'm like, you know, well, I got the degree. I should put it to use. I could still put it to good use. You know what I mean? Yes. Because I understand tutoring is like it can be expensive, so people kind of shy away from it. And in college I was tutoring, you know, chemistry, like university students too. So I know those subjects pretty well, and I really enjoy teaching. So yeah, I enjoy teaching people and bringing people up and lifting people up. That's why I was a sub for 2 years or whatever. But yeah, it's really about like coming back home, saying like, there is something here. You know what I mean? There's something special here that, you know, you don't have to go somewhere else to find it. You could find it right here. Yeah. And even if no one's really shown that to everybody, you know, no one's really been able to do that yet. Yeah. I really want to portray that. I want to be like, no, like there is something special here, and this is important, you know? And yeah. Yeah.
What's special is every single person in these towns right here. Like that's the thing. Like
there's people here.
Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, maybe they don't perceive Fresno as being special, or Sanger or Clovis, and it's like, nah, it's like we are what makes it special, you know, us
exactly
shining out, you know. So that's awesome. And I'm excited that you're back. I'm excited that you're here. I'm a visionary, so I'm thinking of things that we can partner and do. Yeah. I love getting out in the community and spreading that message of love and joy and peace, and maybe we can get together and help you, like inspire you to write some songs or do some stuff. It'd be interesting, be fun. So
yeah, any community. Yeah, if you have any ideas for like that's what I found is like a lot of things in life like really is like things are very simple. You just have to do it. You know what I mean?
Well, like we have Tower District. Like when COVID goes away and normal life, you know, that's a hub. That's a hub for people who are really like, they've never experienced love or joy or peace. A lot of them are kind of still searching. There's a lot of hurt. And it's just a real simple of letting them know in all our different ways. You know, you might rap something, you might say something, you might, just giving someone a hug, whatever. Like just being out there sometimes is a huge step. Like you said, something simple that we can do.
No, I'd definitely be down for that, actually, bro.
Sounds good, my friend. Sounds good. Well, wrapping this up, what is the best way for people to connect with you? I'm going to put everything in the description and take care of that. But let them know, how do they find you? How do they get some of that awesome merchandise that you've got too?
Yeah, man. So you could find me. The best place to find me would be on like Instagram at TPK Rudy G. Um, and you can, and I have a Plain Kids website too. So you can just type in plainkidzrecords.com and you can read the whole story. You can you can read the story. You can see what we're trying to do, and I think the best way, if you have ideas too, like anyone who's watching, if you have ideas to actually really give back and try and like build, then yeah, just hit me up again on Instagram at TPK Rudy G, or on Twitter, or pretty much anywhere. And on
Yeah.
you can listen to my music too, but
Awesome.
and I agree, you should listen to my music, but
Yeah.
it's really about the playing kids is really what it's about too.
You have something coming out in December?
Yeah, so I actually have an EP coming out in December. It's gonna be called Winter Dreams Part 2.
Okay.
And it's basically a story. It's the story of me growing up. It's a very story oriented EP. And the song I put out on Friday was the first song of the EP.
Yeah.
And again, it's very story based, and it's just talking about my life growing up here in Fresno. And I have I'll be having music coming out every week pretty much. So there's a
Nice.
lot of
I like it.
music coming out. Yeah. Hopefully positive. Hopefully things that you can relate to, or things that kind of like story. I'm trying to tell a story. I'm really trying to, that's what it's about, bringing the story and coming back home and telling my story, and sharing it. And I'm sure that it's a lot of people's story too.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the point, man. That's awesome. I'm looking forward to doing something in the future and partnering with you and promoting you as well. So thanks for coming on, Mr. Rudy.
Thank you for having me, Nick.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again, and we'll talk. Let's end this, and we can talk. All right, see you, everybody. Adios. Hasta luego.